Roger Thesaurus of Words for Writers. Today we're going to go ahead and do words all the way from number 36 to number 40. So let's get this started with cogent. Cogent is an adjective, and this just basically means it's kind of appropriate. It's appropriate for something to happen. Okay, so cogent basically means that something is very good and reasoned. It's very well thought. And since it's very well thought, it basically means you got a lot of logic behind you. That basically means you can go ahead and solve out a bunch of this equation. That's pretty good. So next up, there is a lot more that we can talk about. Thesauruses, let's start off with the adjectives. So firstly, we have apropos. Apropos just basically means something is very appropriate. Then we have cognizant, which just basically means it's that you are aware of the reality of the situation. It's like Professor X telling someone, saying you are aware that you are muted, you are cognizant of the situation. Well, not as cognizant as you are. Fair enough. And then we have this term, germane, which just basically means that something is very relevant. When something's germane, that thing is very relevant. Then we have salient, which just basically means it's importantly relevant. Something's important and it's also very, very relevant. Then we have tendentious, and tendentious basically means you're going ahead and you're promoting your own beliefs. And since you're promoting your own beliefs, it works out pretty well in your terms and your, other person's terms. Then we have raison d'etre, which basically means it's the core reason for something or someone to exist. We have sagacity, which just basically means it's wisdom. You're going ahead, you're doing some wisdom. Alright, next, let's go ahead and do this. By the way, those last two were nouns. Next up, we have verbs. Here we have adjudicate. This basically means you're listening to opposing arguments. Then you have educe, which just basically means you're going ahead, you're coming back to a logical conclusion of something. Then we have feckless, and feckless basically means you're lacking the definiteness of the purpose of something. We have obtuse, which means you are unable to comprehend something. You are unable to comprehend. When someone's obtuse, by the way, all these are antonyms, you are unable to comprehend. You are not cogent. You cannot think of this as well as Professor X. Then we have opaque, which basically means something or someone is very hard to understand, which is why they're opaque. Like, you can see what they're trying to say, but you don't see it clearly. Then we have tangential, which just basically means you're very divergent, and since you're very divergent, it works out pretty well. Next, we have cerulean, which basically means it's the blue of the sky. Okay, this is where I actually kind of stopped to pause for a moment. Next up, our 37th word is colors. So now let's go ahead and start off with an adjective. We have cerulean, which just basically means it's the blues of the sky. Then we have monochromatic, which just basically means it's like it uses a single color. Mono means one, chromatic means color, so monochromatic means you use a single color. Then we have olivaceous, which is the color of olives, like dark green. It's dark green. Then we have pallid, which basically means you're lacking something in color. When something's pallid, that means it's lacking color. We have pavonine, which just basically means it's rainbow-like. When something's pavonine, it's rainbow-like. Finally, we have pie, which basically means it have blotches of two or more colors, or words, actually. Then we have polychrome, which just basically means you have too many colors. When someone's polychrome, you have too many kinds of colors. Rainbow-like, shall we say. Having many colors. Then we have rosé, and as the name suggests, this just basically means it's rose-colored. This is rose-colored, it works out pretty well. We have sallow, which just basically means it's a grayish, greenish yellow. It's like gray, green, and yellow mixed together. Then you get a sallow color. We have spadaceous, and spadaceous basically means it's a bright brown color. And since it's a bright brown color, well, I think you know which kind of color we're talking about. Then we have variegated, which just basically means something is changing color a lot. Why do you think the word vari is inside there? Then we have verdant, which is like green and with no foliage. And then zancic, which is like yellowish. This is a kind of yellow. Alright. Now for the nouns. This is a nightmare. We have bice, which is a medium version of blue. Think of lapis lazuli. We have cyan, which is like a greenish kind of blue. We have jacinth, which is a reddish orange. We have metachronism. Metachronism basically means it's to change the colors, usually due to a temperature change or something. Chronism, like what chameleons do. This is what chameleons do. Then we have Murray, which is like a dark purple kind of red. Next we have Ochre, which just basically means you have a dark yellow. Then you have Opalescence, which is like a play of colors. You go ahead, you use colors and you play on them. You make different colors and mixes them together to make a play of it. Then we have Oxblood, which is a dark dull kind of red. We have Paris, which is a very dark version of blue, also known as purple. We have Puce, which is a dark or brownish purple. We have Rattle, which is like a red ochre. And we have Sepia, sepia being a grayish brown color. Then we have Sulfurino, and this is like a vivid, a purplish pink. Then we have Vermilion, and Vermilion basically means you are having a bright red kind of color. Alright, now for the antonyms, we have these two words. Achromatic, meaning something has no color at all, it's dull, it's lifeless. And we have neutral, which just basically means that thing is not vivid. Alright, time for our 38th word. It's combine. And combine here we have several ways we can actually go ahead and talk about it. Here we have concerted, which is the only adjective here. And this basically means something is mutually devised. Two things are mutually devised. And now we have nouns. Here we have cache, which is like something hidden. A cache of cash is like a bunch of hidden cash. Then we have miscellany, which is like a collection of various elements. It's a collection of various elements that you go ahead and put together into one small book or something. We have pastiche, which is like a haphazard collection of items from various sources. It's like those collages that you use to make different sources. And then we have synergy, which is like the combined efforts of several people for one common goal. And then we have synthesis, and synthesis is like you go ahead and you're mixing two or more different things together, go ahead and create something entirely new. Then our next word is accrete. Accrete basically means you're going ahead, you're accumulating something or someone, you're accumulating them. Then we have agglomerate, which means you're gathering items into a ball. You're gathering all of them into like one ball, like a agglomerate of tinfoil. Or ball of tinfoil, that's actually way better use. Then we have amalgamate, which means you're going ahead, you're blending something into one single unit. You're blending, say, orange juice, apple juice, and banana into one kind of smoothie. Then we have conjoin, which means you're going ahead, you're uniting something or someone. When you're convening, that means you're assembling a body, usually for public purposes. We have cull, which is basically means you're going ahead, you're collecting a portion of the entire population. It's like a sample in like survey. It's like statistical terms. This is also known as a sample. When you're marshalling someone, that means you're bringing all the available resources you have, into becoming for one kind of common goal. Like court martial is where you're going ahead, you're kicking someone out. Next up, we have muster, which means you're going ahead, you're summoning something. When you're mustering all the pieces of strength you have, you're using the last bits of strength you have to do something. Then we have syncretize, which means you're going ahead and you're uniting something or someone with varying concepts. And that works out really well. Finally, we have approportion, which means you're going ahead, you're dividing the shares of something or someone according to what they're worth. Like when you're appropriating something towards, say, 5 people, that means you are going ahead, you're giving 5 people their equal shares, their deserved shares of the pie. Then we have disseminate, which is basically means you're going ahead and you're splitting something up so that it can be given out to a larger population. Disseminate. So you're going ahead, you're giving pie to a lot of pie to lots of people who cannot afford much pie. And finally, we have meet. And when you're meeting something or someone, you're going ahead, you're allotting that person using your time. And that is the end of basically part 1 of the words 36 to 38. I decided right now I'm splitting it into 2 videos because this is already too long. 39 to 40 will be in the next video, and I'll see you guys then. Now, peace. Bye-bye.